What happens if Asia stops buying? In 2025, that question isn't hypothetical anymore. As trade tensions rise and supply chains stretch thin, dozens of countries are staring straight into an economic abyss. Asia, led by China, India, and the ASEAN giants, has become the lifeline for global exports, raw materials, and investment. And the countries you're about to see, they're dangerously hooked. We're counting down the 10 nations that can't afford to lose Asia. From billion-dollar soybean deals to irreplaceable lithium contracts, these relationships aren't just important. They're existential. Let's dive in, starting with a country whose bauxite boom is now entirely tied to Chinese demand. Before we move on, hit the like button to boost this video in the algorithm and support our work. Number 10. Guinea. Guinea may not make headlines often, but its minerals power the world, especially Asia. In 2025, Guinea's bauxite exports surged 36%, topping 99.8 million tons, with nearly all of it heading to Chinese refineries. Why does this matter? Bauxite is the key ingredient in aluminum, and aluminum is the backbone of everything from cars to airplanes. As China ramps up its green energy and construction push, Guinea has become its go-to supplier. That sounds like good news, right? Except it means Guinea's economy now rises or falls based on Beijing's next 5-year plan. One policy shift, one demand shock, and tens of thousands of Guinean mining jobs could vanish overnight. And with Chinese companies controlling major stakes in Guinea's mining sector, even local sovereignty is now under quiet strain. So when people say Asia's economic power is just about factories or tech, Guinea proves it's also about the dirt under our feet. Number 9. South Africa. South Africa's mining lifeline is directly tied to Asia's hunger for raw materials. In 2025, Asia, particularly China, continues to dominate the global demand for chromium, used in stainless steel and battery production. According to Reuters, South Africa exported over 80% of its chromite to Asian buyers last year. That's not just a trade relationship, that's survival. But trouble is brewing. In July 2025, the South African government floated a controversial chrome export tax. Miners instantly warned it could backfire, pushing Asian buyers, especially in China, to source elsewhere, like Kazakhstan or Turkey. If that shift happens, over 7,500 mining jobs could be wiped out almost overnight. One executive told Reuters, "If China pulls out, we're not just in recession, we're in free fall." South Africa's manufacturing, mining royalties, and logistics chains all lean heavily on that one core market. Lose it, and the consequences ripple nationwide, from Rustenburg's open pit mines to Johannesburg's stock market. Number 8. Canada. Even America's northern neighbor can't escape the gravity of Asian trade. In 2025, China remains Canada's second-largest trading partner, and one sector shows just how vulnerable Canada really is: agriculture. This spring, Reuters reported that Canadian farmers shipped over 3 million metric tons of canola to China in the first 5 months alone, driven by demand for biofuels and animal feed. But here's the twist. Tensions over tariffs have now triggered a pivot. To dodge Chinese duties, Canadian farmers are slashing canola acreage and switching to spring wheat. That's creating massive uncertainty in local markets. And for grain-dependent provinces like Saskatchewan and Alberta, the stakes are sky high. Some farming co-ops are already warning of income drops between 18 and 22%. Ottawa may want to diversify, but until new markets emerge, Asia is still the kingmaker. One farmer told FT bluntly, "If China stops buying, we don't plant." Before we uncover the next country, hit that subscribe button, like, and hit the notification bell. It's your ticket to the stories no one else dares to tell. The more you support, the more truths we expose. Number 7. New Zealand. New Zealand's economy may look resilient on the surface, but peel back the layers and you'll find a quiet dependency on Asia, especially China. Over 30% of New Zealand's exports head to China alone, and that's not just dairy. From timber to meat, the bulk of its primary sector is propped up by Asian demand. In June 2025, New Zealand Prime Minister Christopher Luxon met with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing to shore up trade relations amid mounting regional uncertainty. But behind the diplomatic smiles was a clear truth. New Zealand can't afford to lose access to Asian markets. One senior trade official even admitted, off the record, that a serious China slowdown would be a direct hit to our GDP. With tourism from Asia still recovering post-pandemic and agricultural exports under constant pressure from Chinese regulatory shifts, New Zealand walks a tightrope. It's a reminder that geographic distance offers no protection from economic gravity. Number 6. Chile. Lithium is Chile's golden ticket to the global clean energy race. And guess who's holding the other end of that ticket? Asia, specifically China. In July 2025, Chile's state-run Codelco secured a critical lithium quota to finalize a joint venture with Chinese mining giant SQM. Without that deal, Chile's lithium dreams risk fading fast. Asia buys the lion's share of Chilean copper and lithium exports, critical resources in electric vehicle batteries and renewable infrastructure. As global demand for these materials explodes, Chile has bet big on Asia staying hungry. That's a risky gamble. Economists warn that if Asian demand dips, or if Beijing shifts to alternative suppliers, Chile's mining-dependent regions could face massive layoffs and funding gaps in public programs. That's not just market volatility, it's national vulnerability. So when Chile talks about energy independence, it's worth asking, who's really in control of the power cord? Number 5. Russia. Russia may project strength on the global stage, but economically it's more dependent than ever on Asia, and that dependence is growing deeper by the day. As of 2025, over 58% of Russia's crude oil exports are now heading to Asian buyers, with China and India leading the charge. A Reuters energy report from March reveals that Moscow has pivoted almost entirely toward Asia after being sidelined by Western markets. The Kremlin isn't just selling oil, it's slashing prices, fast-tracking pipeline expansions, and offering long-term supply guarantees to keep Asian demand flowing. This isn't just trade, it's survival. Following sweeping sanctions after its invasion of Ukraine, Russia's energy sector was backed into a corner. Asia became the lifeline. Russian oil revenues, still bankrolling everything from pensions to military spending, now hinge on maintaining that eastbound flow. If Asia wavers, even slightly, the financial dominoes begin to fall. Budget shortfalls, currency devaluation, social unrest. With no viable replacement markets, Russia's post-sanctions economy would face catastrophic collapse. In 2025, Asia isn't just Russia's partner, it's its pressure valve. Number 4. Saudi Arabia. On the other side of the energy battlefield, Saudi Arabia is locked in an increasingly aggressive tug-of-war with Russia over Asia's oil appetite. Nearly 72% of Saudi crude shipments now head east, according to a March 2025 Global Commodities Outlook. That means Asia isn't just a market, it's the kingdom's financial lifeline, its strategic future. The Saudis are keenly aware of this. They're now pursuing decades-long supply contracts with key Asian powerhouses like China, India, and South Korea to lock in demand before competitors seize ground. But there's a looming risk: saturation. As more exporters fight for a slice of Asia's consumption pie, margins thin and influence wanes. For Saudi Arabia, every lost barrel in Asia is a billion-dollar blow. And those barrels can't just be rerouted to Europe or the Americas. The infrastructure, demand, and pricing just don't align. What's more, as Asia shifts toward renewables and energy diversification, Riyadh's bet on long-term crude dominance becomes more fragile. The kingdom's Vision 2030 may tout diversification, but in reality, its economic future is still dictated in Beijing boardrooms and Indian refineries. Before we dive into the next country, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Your support helps us shine a light on the stories others ignore and bring truth to the surface. The more you back us, the further we go. Join the mission. Number 3. Brazil. Brazil's booming agricultural empire is built on one critical relationship: Asia's insatiable demand for food. In 2025, China alone is expected to import over 28 million tons of Brazilian soybeans, more than half of Brazil's total soy exports. According to Reuters, these shipments have become the backbone of Brazil's rural economy, fueling jobs, infrastructure, and political influence across the nation's vast interior. But here's the catch: if Asia turns elsewhere for its protein feed, Brazil's entire agricultural sector could spiral. Ports would stall, farmers would default, and the country's trade surplus would shrink dramatically. In states like Mato Grosso and Paraná, soy exports fund everything from road building to school programs. A shift in demand could mean tens of thousands of jobs lost, weakening Brazil's fragile recovery from past economic crises. Brazil's dependence on Asian appetites isn't just about trade, It's a vulnerability woven into the heart of its economy. With global food dynamics shifting fast thanks to climate shocks, trade disputes, and rising domestic production in places like India and Southeast Asia, any rupture in that pipeline could have devastating ripple effects not only on agriculture, but on Brazil's national budget and political stability. Number 2, Germany. Germany, Europe's industrial engine, relies on Asia not just for exports, but for survival. In 2025, nearly 36% of Germany's car exports are bound for Asian markets, with China alone accounting for over a quarter of that share. According to the Financial Times, German automakers are now tailoring their designs and production lines specifically to cater to Chinese consumers, who've become both the target audience and the financial bedrock. If Asian buyers slow down, it's not just a dent in profits, it's a threat to Germany's entire manufacturing model. Layoffs would hit Wolfsburg, Stuttgart, and beyond. Supply chains would seize up. And Germany's export surplus, once a point of national pride, could flip into dangerous deficit territory. Even luxury brands like Mercedes and BMW have warned investors that a cooling Asian market could trigger production cuts and strategic overhauls. Beyond autos, sectors like machinery, chemicals, and electronics also rely heavily on Asian demand. A slowdown in trade could cascade through Germany's economy, hitting tax revenues, employment, and GDP growth. Asia isn't just a partner, it's the lifeline Germany can't afford to lose. And in a multipolar world where alliances are shifting rapidly, that dependency could turn into an economic chokehold. Number 1, Australia. Australia may be a steadfast Western ally, but economically it's tethered tightly to Asia's powerhouse markets. In 2025, a staggering 63% of all Australian exports are flowing into Asia, with China single-handedly soaking up the lion's share. These exports aren't just a mix of goods. They're the very lifeblood of Australia's economy. Iron ore from Western Australia, coal from Queensland, and rare earths vital to Asia's tech giants and green energy industries. According to the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, ASP, even after years of tense political standoffs and diplomatic flare-ups, trade volumes between Australia and China bounced back faster than analysts predicted, proving this dependency runs deeper than diplomacy. But here's the kicker. If Asia sneezes, Australia won't just catch a cold. It'll face a full-blown economic flu. A sudden contraction in Asian demand would freeze Australia's mining towns, leave bulk carriers sitting idle in key export ports, and burn a multi-billion-dollar hole in the national budget. State treasuries would take massive hits as royalty revenues vanish, superannuation funds tied to commodities would lose value, and thousands of workers in resource-rich regions like the Pilbara or Mackay could face layoffs. And with Asia increasingly investing in its own supply chains and alternative partners, Australia may soon find itself fighting to hold on to its once guaranteed seat at the Asian export table. From the mines of Guinea to the auto plants of Germany, from Canadian wheat fields to Brazilian soy farms, Asia is the economic sun around which these economies orbit. These 10 countries don't just trade with Asia, they are economically fused to it. Any tremor in Asian demand doesn't ripple, it quakes through their industries, budgets, and communities. So, now we ask you, if Asia were to shift gears tomorrow, which of these economies could adapt, and which would be left scrambling? Let us know in the comments. And if this video helped you see the bigger picture, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to understand the new global balance. Because in 2025, the real economic storms aren't brewing in Washington or Brussels, but in Beijing, Tokyo, and New Delhi.